everybody. Welcome back to another Imizizi Conversations. I'm willing to share, co-founder and managing director of Imizizi, my bad. Those who are new to the platform, Imizizi is a people management company. From hire to retire, we look at sourcing and staffing, advisory and consulting, and outsource people management. For more of the details, please do go to our website. Today I'm with such beautiful ladies and we're going to be discussing the ins and outs of mental health. And I think this is actually a very critical conversation to have as it's Mental Wealth Awareness Month, October. So let me actually start with introductions.
Yes.
You can introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm a reputation management specialist, media relations specialist, whatever you want to use, but I describe myself as a storyteller and a people connector. And I'm glad to be here. Yeah.
And CD?
I'm a TV social analyst, clinical psychologist of profession. I'm really just passionate about mental health issues since it's really what I do daily.
And I'm sure everybody knows my co-founder and co-host at times, Yolisa, that you can say hello.
Hi everyone, it's good to be back. Yolisa Cholanala, co-founder and director at Imizizi.
Yeah. Okay, so ins and outs of mental health. I'll start with you, right? And then maybe you can start off by defining for us what is mental health, right? And what's the stigma about? Why is there such a stigma around it?
Sure. That's a tough one, but if I simplify mental health, it's really about, it will vary from individual to individual. It's a state of well-being, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's really a whole facet of who you are. And I suppose if we look at why is it stigmatized, there could be many other things. One is because nobody wants to feel unwell. We want to be good, we want to be living quite a fulfilling life. And being unwell is not an easy thing. So I suppose given that the unwellness is about emotional, it's about spiritual, it's something deeper. When I'm unwell on my hand, everybody can see and everybody feels somewhat sorry for me, maybe, or they can help. But with regard to mental health, there's a lot of things that change: your behavior, your mood, how you communicate with people, and all that. And the stigma maybe is because of that it's something that it's so not on your eyes, and people think you must be going crazy.
Yes, it's like you can't see it. It's like there's sort of a wound.
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe the stigma also is contributed by that, but also the notions we hold as people. Sometimes when we think of people who are unwell, oftentimes we think of somebody who's on the street, somebody who's just walking without any aim whatsoever. So we don't have the notion that I can be mentally unwell and look the way I look. And because I look the way I look, I could possibly hide it for a very long time until it becomes quite severe. And so the stigma, I think,
gets created
in that, and it's over time.
Yeah.
Well. And because if you say, you don't seem to be wealthy, I resist it. Until it really gets out of hand. And then people get to be called names. She's crazy. She's talking things that are not.
We don't understand.
Yes. So you'll find really, I think the biggest problem we have generally is the stigma around it. And the discrimination.
The discrimination is quite hectic, right? And I like the fact that you keep saying unwell. Because I think people need to understand whether there's a dis-ease that's happening, right? It's not something I picked. So one of the things I read, you can tell me if you, it's supposed to be a myth, right? It's meant to be a myth, and maybe you can also bust it for me, where they're saying that the personality weakness are people who are prone, those are the people who will be prone to mental weakness.
personality weakness. What do they mean by personality weakness?
Like, and I'm assuming, right, because I don't know, that's what I saw.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that, you know, like maybe if you're meek, because meekness is seen as weak. Okay, maybe let me describe what I think people mean by personality strength.
Yeah.
Your vocal, you know, you tackle things head on,
Yeah.
and it's ego.
Okay.
So it's that boisterous out thing.
I think
So they think that is a personality strength, I'm assuming,
Yes.
right?
I'm just thinking of recent times when mental health has come under the spotlight.
Yeah.
And when we see people battle with mental health, both public and privately, and succumb to it in many ways.
Yes.
The public domain, the WHP, these were people who were full of life.
Yeah.
They were like, oh man, this guy, always happy, always.
Wow.
And as somebody said, those are the ones that had it the most as well. And there's something about, because I think, yeah, I mean, you can pitch in. And so that's why I'm surprised by it, because people who come out in public and then we are surprised, but WHP was so happy because they're always there, love people. And then next
they
thing,
cannot have it.
yeah, like how? Right? And like he comes out and says, I've been trying to end my life. You're like, hey?
Why?
Why?
Yes.
Why?
And I mean, one of the things that I saw somewhere, they were saying that, you know, I mean, as suggestions of how to tackle.
Yes.
As a person, they were like, you know, think positively, try to be in a good mental state. So I sat there and I was like, but would it then be insensitive when people do say that you have a mental health issue and get over it? You need to get over it. Does that come across as insensitive? Imagine you as an employer and you don't understand. You don't understand that it's a mental health issue, right? And I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah.
So if I then say, I've read that actually this is a self-help thing. You know, you need to sit and do mantras and affirmations and be positive. And so that's why I think they would say weak personality, because they're like, it's your thing to do, to fix and work on. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's yet another stigma. Sorry, because like you're weak, and that's why people don't come out. It's like, I can't deal with my thing.
Yeah.
I can't deal with your ish.
Yes.
But like, get it together.
Get it
Get
together.
over it.
Get over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the struggle to get over it. I think that's why people don't want it. So,
Yeah. And I think especially in the work environment, right? Because you pushing productivity, you pushing deliverables, you don't take a step back as managers to actually observe what could be happening with this person, because they're an individual. They have feelings. I think at CD mentioned that whole total well-being, because then to say yourself, and it's something that we need to shift our mindset, especially as employers, because at the end of the day, I think we went through an era where there was a lot of concentration on physical wellness in the work environment, and now we've shifted, whereby it's not just about your physical, wellness. The work environment is being, clear of core, all of that. But now moving to even the mental state. What's the point that people are people? They come to the work environment to spend 8 hours a day in that workspace. What environment are you creating for them? There's many issues, capacity issues, whereby people are inundated with, workloads where they're doing two people's jobs, and they're only by one person. So, I would say it's very insensitive.
So, and I mean, I'm going to reiterate to everybody listening that today I'm playing the devil's advocate. We need to get the information right. So I'll be playing what people are saying.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I'm thinking about is Eunice and speaking. And I mean, when I was reading up, mental awareness is a big thing, and I think it's a very important thing, right? Because to your point, we don't. And we need to get to a point where someone makes.
You look different.
Yeah.
You look different.
I was going to ask that question related to that. Thank you. So I was going to say that in an instance where, because there isn't a set way that mental awareness, these things come out, right? So depression and anxiety are big factors of mental awareness. And those we know, because we see how those look like, right? But all the other things we still don't know. Still kind of grouped as mental awareness, mental health issues, but we don't know what that means. So if you are sleepy, you're tired, you're moody. I'm just like, the attitude to this person is firing you.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So how do I know when to step in? I mean, she actually said something very important, something I didn't think about profoundly, that the people with the issues are the people who look the best, happiest.
And I suppose if you're thinking in terms of working environment, it's very difficult as well, because you also need to respect people's spaces. Don't become too intrusive. And it's quite like this one, mental issue that crossing, you can see.
Telling everyone.
And think it's very good. And like Yulisa is saying, how do you balance the two? Because perhaps maybe if you were to have individual sort of contact, maybe not with somebody who's within the company, but somebody who's outside, and have a baseline. Because it will look different. Perhaps when someone can start coming, so we take things like alcohol very lightly, we take things, painkillers, all the time.
So those are like things you start looking out for. Because they do say that mental issues lead to substance abuse.
As a way of people to cope. And sometimes people are not even aware that they are coping with something. But it's more like,
because we've been socialized, a glass of wine, that bottle of wine.
I'm stressed.
It's Friday night.
And I think she raises a valid point that people don't know.
No.
You as a human being also don't know that I have a mental issue.
I think,
right?
what she's saying, with me, because I've been going to therapy since 2017, your man would drive you crazy. I swear, the reason I went and why I stayed at different, why I went might be different, but why I stayed is, that is, his role in my life was to give me but one thing I really also discovered was we're talking about coping mechanism. So not alcohol and then avoidance. You know, when you're like, I see people, anything that messes with my peace. I've got to a point where you don't want anything triggering you or putting you in a bad space, where now you start having serious avoidance. If an email that I'm like, this one's gonna put me in a bad I'm like, Jesus, take your bonus. What is it saying? I'm like, oh, maybe my tenant is gonna be late paid. I'm like, you see, I don't want to be angry. But I think it got to a point where, because it starts off easy, avoidance things. Before you know it, you really are on the extreme end. And that for me was, and I've discovered in other people. You want even feedback, like they don't want to be stressed, but it's, I don't know, I want you to comment on that avoidance. Everybody talks about the alcohol, the chocolate, the whatever, then get under somebody to avoid something, but the avoidance, the other things that, because people's use things, open the chemist guy. To get under somebody to get over something or deal with something, guys. But people don't, that's awareness. But the avoidance for me was, it made it worse because then it triggers.
So do you think the avoidance is a problem? So to me, I'm hearing,
Yeah.
you're saying, get to a space where they want to protect your peace. See a trigger a mile away, no. Not going
Devil is
there.
a liar.
The devil is a liar. You know, I just like nothing. Versus avoiding dealing with the problem.
Exactly. So some people, you found your happy piece, but you almost lost your mind. So anything else that might come, you know, it's like your brain remembers how you almost
So you
lost
can't deal.
You can't deal. The self-protectiveness. I find that's what also other people now start
And that's when
doing.
you draw out of society, and then that's when you start worrying, hey, what's going on?
What's
I haven't
happening?
seen you in a
You're
while.
not socializing.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm taking care of myself. Minding my business. No, girl.
Can't, meanwhile.
And I think for me that was a big aha.
So is it because I'm trying to get to the bottom of it, right? Is it because of the word mental issue? Is it because of that? Because there's so many things we're touching on that are a part and parcel of mental issue. But if we clump it together, mental awareness, mental issues, then you start thinking crazy.
I like
Then
mental
we
health
start,
better.
then we start
Mental
thinking,
issues now. I'm like,
yes, then you just, because honestly, when you Google, that's what they say,
I know.
mental issues, right? But I feel like even mental health, you guys need to help break this down for us. Do you know what I mean?
Even academic way, really.
At least where it's nyana, to be like, you know, depression, because now depression, as much as that was shunned against for the longest time, now it's starting to become more
loosely used, but also
not loosely used, yes, but it's allowing, or allowed, like, you know, that this is an issue that needs to be dealt with. It's not because to us being depressed, loosely used, is I wanted to go to a party, my dad said no, I'm depressed.
I wanted to answer.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think because we use those words loosely, they lose the meaning. And I don't know if, again, if it's a black thing, right? Where if I would go, I watched a TikTok. Where if I go and tell my mom I'm going to seeing therapists, going through issues or certain things that I can't do because of ABCD. No, every time, you know, no, I'm not gonna send you to the shops to the press conference. I remember that picture. I'm more than you know, so they make fun of these things where you're like, I'm right next door, I can hear you.
I'm shaving my head.
It's a trigger. But I mean, it becomes more of a trigger because on top of the fact that I've told you, you're making fun of it.
You're thinking you're supportive. But that's also another thing. I think what you're touching on is the difference between mental health and just issues. Because I think I liked what she said in the beginning. He said it has to do with so many aspects, like mental, how we are as people, how we relate with others. And I think how we behave. Sometimes I hear people say, that's how I am. Mina, you take it or you know, it's so unhealthy. That person needs to check themselves. But they won't say it. The person, hey, Mina, I'm known. Hey,
How we
do things. People don't stop to question, is this how I really want to be doing things? How I am? Is it healthy? What impact am I having, particularly to other people? Particularly to other people, you may lose your own decision. Yes. So if we are not aware of how we're relating in different spaces with different people, and then how perhaps in
in that relations, they add some kind of burden to me emotionally, physically, cognitively, that, oh, when I am with you, I always need to be laughing, perhaps because the morning is bubbly, that could possibly be a stressor for me, that, oh, she's very bubbly, wants me to be like here with her. But it's really about also awareness, like she was touching on that. Over time, you become aware of who you are and how things impact on you. And then what do you do when they impact you? And when you get in touch with that part of yourself, I think you'll be like the most healthy person. Because
I mean, that's a whole different discussion. When she was like, if people would be aware, I'm like, that's a different topic.
No, true, right? But like,
Where people sit and actually are aware of their actions.
I think I'm thinking to what you said about a lot of people don't leave companies, they leave their managers. And it's because the manager thinks, yeah, that's how I am. People are shaking. hey, you know, the impact you're having on people's mental health is the loss. But now you're not aware because you think you're passing out. You know, but I think even that, that whole self-awareness, and I think as an employee as well, the awareness to say, hey, so-and-so makes me want to lose my mind. And then you sit and say, what is it about her that triggers me? And then I think that's the health thing. Just like I can't stop eating. I'll be like, why can't I stop eating? Why does the trigger? It's a physical. Something is not right.
Because, I mean, when she started, she was very clingy to say it's a holistic thing.
It's a holistic.
So it's how you feel at the end of the day. Because, I mean, I read somewhere that about people who have mental health, suffer from mental health. Is that how I put it?
who have mental health
Who have mental health issues.
Who are mental health? Mental health that needs improvement.
Yes. I have but anyways, now
Sorry.
my first question. My first question, I'll go to the second one.
Okay.
Because mental health can also be biological, right? You can be born that you
can be born with vulnerability too.
Oh.
Educate us. Which means
if you became that I'm not mentioning mothers, but they tend to have we tend to put everything on them to say maybe you didn't look after yourself properly during pregnancy, and you have a vulnerability in you as an individual. If you are like a moody person yourself, and you perhaps sleeping as well, you don't sleep properly, not because of pregnancy, that's just who you are, or how you have gone through life.
So I thought they mentioned something about genes and brain chemistry.
Yes.
And then I was just like, but then, if that's the case, is it a problem? Or we just don't understand a particular person?
Well, I would say you can have the genes and the chemistry, but if your structural support is good enough, those genes might not manifest themselves.
It's a whole environment thing.
Yes, the environment, the
Where
structure. It can either make you go, because if you think of it in a spectrum or in a continuum, we can all have that predisposition or the susceptibility to develop. If you think of flu, you'll be around somebody with flu, I could get it, but she might not get it. So if you have that susceptibility, and then the environment is conducive,
then you're gonna,
then it will come out, the probability is higher.
Yes, the probability is higher.
Sure.
okay.
Okay, so because I mean, I didn't know that. So then because I know life experiences, so when I read about brain chemistry, I'm like, wait, so maybe I'm a genius, you guys just don't understand me. And now I'm sitting here trying to okay, the general populace, therefore, you know, because what if it's a thing though?
These genes, but that doesn't necessarily always mean the person will get it. And unfortunately, sometimes even good environments, because I think sometimes when we talk about the things that are difficult, we're thinking of, oh, maybe the environment you grew up in wasn't loving enough, wasn't caring enough, wasn't providing, there was poverty, there was this. There are people who grew up in environments that are quite flourishing. Once they hit a big, a difficult or something comes up.
Yeah.
And it has the genes,
The predisposition.
You're predisposed. Because some people can survive have situations better than others.
Yes.
That's true.
And I think that's what you're saying. If you're predisposed to, let's say, depression, in terms of you will be
Anxiety.
someone's anxiety.
Yeah.
Somebody looks like they're walking on water through the same situation. This is their job, this is this. And they're still,
That's so
whereas someone else is like, yo, like on antidepressant, and then we judge people like, but one has been through 1, 2, 3, and here you are crumbling over. That's how they will be repossessed.
And
And
sometimes it's
but
the
that's
same
true.
household.
And sometimes it's the whole,
Same
and I think
household,
it's
same
worse.
upbringing, same everything.
You are so
The
right.
experiences on how people deal with things
Yes.
totally different.
Family environment.
Family
Is it because of how you interact maybe with the older people, the environment? And does it go back to the weak personality? Does it go back
The makeup is what you're doing.
I think from what I'm hearing,
From what
as
I'm
well.
hearing, so if you're wired to go there, you know, you will go there. And your siblings were like, he is not predisposed to those things. They would come out on top.
Because so I'm just thinking about the family she's mentioning now, because one of the things, the myths I read up on was the fact that people with mental problems are violent, tend to be violent, and prone to violence. You know what I mean? And that would make sense then if the family environment you grew up in was violent.
on its own.
And therefore you think your way of dealing with your mental issues is through violence.
And it depends on what the issue is.
And maybe you are siblings of 3 and wanted to she was answering. Now she's last one. I mean, by then was calm and fine and they don't know. But at first one, flames.
The environment
Flames. You were just like, and I suppose that's when you start saying she had it better. Then I wonder if it's not stronger because she feels she can access help when she needs it. Because I think that's another problem. Because I think you feel
the other ones were suffering.
mentally, yes,
Yeah,
mentally
because
I feel like I need to do it myself. Versus the next person who's like, I can't.
And I think there's no one answer with that one because family makeup is different.
Yeah.
Right? Every household is different. And coming to your point, how firstborns are treated as an example, right, is different across every household. In one household, it could be that the firstborn is expected to, just grow up fast, you have younger siblings and
Take care of.
But in another environment, the parents could be aware, that in actual fact need to choose equality.
Yeah.
And in that environment, therefore, you can't use that as an example or as an excuse why the older person or the older child would act, differently because they didn't have the support.
Yeah.
Whereas last-borns, as an example, are known to have the support because they like the babies of the family. And the support structure is different for them, but it's different for every household.
Yeah.
And sometimes it could be that the parents feel like late Lamiki, even though you're the husband, like I was out living my life, and there you are. So the treatment is different. But I Sydney's point in terms of the environment. I think that's what I'm drawing from it, is that the environment. And the environment could be your upbringing, it could be environment in the workplace, toxic environment in a relationship.
Yeah.
There's toxic friendships as well. So I think it's all these environments, which is why when I was researching about this, I've learned that there's actually a couple of assessments, you know, that do at least try to narrow by asking different questions to at least narrow what could be the problem potentially. Is it your upbringing or your background? Is it the work based on the trigger? So I don't know. That's where now the specialists come in. And I mean, based on my research, I know that the wellness potentially implementing something like that, where we have wellness program and everybody must go through that assessment, which will also bring awareness to everybody. You know, because sometimes you're going through it, but you also don't know. But at least an assessment would be able to also show you as an individual that, oh, if I'm sitting here on this scale, that means potentially there could be a problem.
Yeah.
But it's not a Boneng who's saying to me that, oh, you have a problem. Yeah.
And I think that awareness, the point you mentioned about awareness becomes right. And I think because once you have awareness, then you know where to go to find help.
Yeah.
One of our biggest things as human beings is even therapy. I think therapy has been something that for us growing up was just like
Yes. You still get it.
you know what I mean? And we laughed when you mentioned it, but life experiences men can take you.
What's the show? I'm sure they're deleting drivers among women.
The lifestyle, the foods, you know, it can get anyone with a good relationship, and it can get anyone to therapy. But
That says mature apart. Then you realize maybe you feel you're under accomplished, and she's now, you know, because there are little things that make us. And I think you've seen how other people, I think environments that I've seen when people get married or another, then their friendship, they'll talk about how my friendship with so and so changed, or when I started my business, I lost friends or friendship changed it, and people say, "Wow, you've changed." No, you haven't, but something in them is relating to you differently. And they're not looking at what is it.
I actually think that you have changed.
Money does change.
Which is not
money does change you, money don't change you, it's a problem.
therapy also changes you, but in a good way, right? Because you change, so does money.
Yeah,
I agree. Money does. It doesn't change, it just helps
And you're right.
accommodate the things you always wanted.
Better memories. Yeah.
Someone once said, the real you will come out.
I'm waiting for God to test me. With money, 5 million. I want to know the real me.
So for me, it is that actually that you have changed in a good way, but the next person doesn't. And they don't want you to grow. Because for me, it's not the changing, it's the fact that you've grown out of.
But then
their
it's up to them
toxicity.
to actually check what is it about.
But they can't. I need to
I mean, I'm advocating.
And I love the fact that you're advocating to say, I went there for a reason, I stayed for a different reason, and this is what shifted. So for me, her advocacy is amazing, right? Because it goes back to what you were saying about the fact that it's a growth thing.
Yeah.
So from what I'm understanding, when you went to a therapist, you're like, this man has ruined my life. Your therapist probably sat down and like, tell me about your life.
Yeah, it's like, which parts exactly?
You
And how
man.
did he even get there?
Yes, tell me about you.
Then you realize you went far with him. And our full when you said, I'm like, yo, I'm fast. Let me do it now. Because we also don't want accountability.
Yes.
And also, I think one thing I learned when we mentioned about family, sometimes you won't get that sorry. And therapy gives you the ability to deal with that apology that will never ever get.
And you just said something else profound, and I want to just pick on you. And I know you've never dealt with this personally, but in an instance, in an instance where we do the assessment, the person finds out that they have a mental thing, but they don't want to take the accountability to fix anything. How do you think you would navigate a situation like that? Because again, it's because you probably now you know better, so you know what they be defensive because there's a stigma attached to it, right? But now this person is flushing out the money for the business because they're just not wanting to take accountability.
So it's a bit of a tough one because you're dealing with human beings, right? And it can go either way, right? So the beauty of it is that as a business, when you have specialists, who deal with this kind of issues, they're also able to guide as to which way to go. But it's very important to firstly assess the impact as to how long has it been, because sometimes it could be that it's a very temporal. This person has been performing all along, but just this week, maybe they need to take some time off and go. But if it's a recurring issue, you can see that in actual fact, the situation is not improving. That's where now things like the assessment can come in to help, where you are bringing awareness, to the people. But where productivity gets impacted, obviously, as a business, there's processes to be followed because now there's performance that's not coming to the party. And I mean, the standards and policies on how to deal with poor performance, because it's a whole process whereby you don't just, say a person is not performing. You have to assess them, what are the reasons, take them through a program of trying to mediate the problem. But sometimes it does get to a point, especially where diagnosis has been done, where you have to look at other ways, perhaps alternative roles for the person. So sometimes it does get to that, whereby if it's a capacity issue, the person is not only able to cope, with the workload or the level of work because mentally they're just not, they're struggling. So you look at probably moving them somewhere else within the business. But there's different ways of chopping it, and there's no one size fits all. But the beauty of it is that people like TD who are in this profession are there to guide, and labor law, there's rules on how to deal with performance-related matters. You can't just say, "Hey, it's been a month now, you're not performing, bye."
Bye.
You take people through a proper process, whereby also you try and help them because they're people, they're individuals. You don't know what they're going through. But I think TD also mentioned something at the beginning to say that there has to be a balance because there's a certain level of confidentiality, and sometimes people do pull away, and sometimes the person is not ready to receive the help, and that's where it becomes even more challenging because no matter how many interventions you have, that's where sometimes you involve the family, and then it can even lead to a
because I mean one of the myths that I read was that people with mental issues, you can't put them in a situation where they're distressed. So, and I'm assuming that's what you would advise if we come to you and say, Ish, we've got this problem. Then you'll be like, yeah, go find the least stressful position for this person, and leave them there.
I suppose, like you're saying, it's quite difficult because if it's not a, what would say, a crisis or an acute thing, that maybe it's just for this month. But you find the cases that are becoming very complex are those that there's repetition. It's happened for over a longer period of time, and then perhaps maybe no one intervened, or at the time when there is an intervention, then it might be seen as punitive. Maybe some of it could be, but then the individual has to take it on. And the difficulty is that part where the individual
Has to take it on.
has to take it on.
Yeah, I mean, she mentioned therapy, and that's you deciding to go to therapy. She also mentioned if you work or find ways to assist. But what are some of the things that, where do we go? Where do I go if I feel like I need help? And I don't want to tell my boss, I don't want to tell my friends. What else is there?
There's a lot of things. SADC in South Africa does a lot of work, and their services are less in terms of cost. Some of them are actually free, and then there are all these helplines that are there as crises. Maybe what shuns people away from doing the helpline thing is you feel like you're talking to something that you don't see.
On the other side, yeah.
But the faults anonymity. And you can gauge from there whether actually we see somebody physique might actually work for you. Then you have all these private institutions that do provide services like your clinics group, your Akiso group. They have mental health services. And you don't have to be an inpatient where you go and stay in longer period of time. You can be an outpatient. There are support groups. The beauty of internet now is like you just Google around me, you say, have support around me, near me. So you start there and then you take it from depending on your needs. And there are also lots of information on the internet about the sort of screening tools. Discovery is a very beautiful one. So that I said that name. But they must
Okay. We want you to pay for the same to pay.
But they have really brief questionnaires where they ask a couple of things. In the last 2 weeks, have you been starting to sleep? Have you been eating a lot? Have you not been eating? Have you been avoiding things? So it somehow nicely builds an awareness to be able to say, okay, maybe there's something I need to look at here. Maybe I could benefit from Googling Akiso. Maybe I could benefit from Googling clinics. Maybe I could even benefit from just going to public service. There are lots of clinics out there. Community, I always say, churches nowadays are very involved in issues around mental health and all that. So you really look around the community you are in and see and take it from there. And yes, there are psychologists, and I saw briefly that psychiatrists. So there are psychologists out there as well that you really can access and have services. Yes, of course, at a cost. So maybe for companies, it's that I think going to then subsidize.
Yeah. So I think, just on that point, especially for organizations, I mean, we're not that big, but yet. I like very good point. We're not that big yet, but wellness is so important to us that we've made it a free service, for our employees, our consultants, and it's not limited, and it even extends to their families as well, and during COVID, it actually became quite handy. There was the usage for those services picked up, And I think we should be challenging
And did you see a
organizations.
difference? I mean, when you talk to your counterparts, companies same size as you guys who didn't
They
offer
actually
those
don't
services.
offer those services.
Yeah, I'm saying in terms of retaining your employees.
Yeah,
Because a lot of companies underwent a lot of change and lost people, not physically, but in terms of connection.
Yes.
But because you offered that
Yes.
service, did you find that you retained
A
your
lot
people?
more.
A lot
Yeah,
more, and I
I can
think
imagine.
also, especially from a culture
Yeah.
perspective, I think culture plays quite a very big role, because if one person in house is not well, it does affect everybody, especially the smaller the organization. It affects more people, whereas when you're bigger,
Spreads
at
quicker,
least,
yeah.
it spreads quicker. So that's why I think we should be challenging, especially the big companies that can afford it, to make these services available and to make them confidential as well. Because I think another thing that doesn't help is, well, you're going to be going to that person. We all know. Anonymous, that a person can just access those services.
But I think there's more to it, right? Because I mean, they've started doing wellness, which is great, because now, companies that can afford to bring all these people to come and sit and talk to you. But what I wanted to find out is stress a mental health issue? Because stress can lead to depression or anxiety
over time.
over time if it's not looked after. So it's
So
a trigger, it's not
it's
a,
fine.
it's a trigger, but it's not a.
So it's normal.
So how do I know that I've accumulated too much stress?
Yeah.
Now
Yes.
I'm going to
Yes.
depression side.
That's where the difficulty is, because then it is also about the individual, right? We all need stress to function.
To function.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not
Today when you woke up, didn't you think about how I'm going to get to work? I need to beat this traffic, I need to do this, I need to club the kids, I need to pick them up and all. That's normal, right?
But that's not stressful.
Oh, for you, maybe it's not stressful.
It's planning though. I'm planning my day. I'm like, okay, we're here now.
Yeah,
This is what needs to happen.
yeah.
So if I need to get to this meeting at 2, there might be traffic, so I must leave at 12. So avoid the stress.
So it's really about that if you're thinking of, say, for example, people who have to meet deadlines, right? They need that adrenaline and a bit of stress, but when it's over time for a longer period, that's not good. That's what I mean. So if the stress piles up.
So that means you're not saying anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I was mentioning right after what she was saying, because it's part of the wellness at work.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? It's the stress that we think that when you're busy and it's hectic and you're stressed, well, I should use the 10 yeah. She's always stressed. She's good in line to be the next executive.
But if she does that, if you imagine it, if she does that for 2 weeks, for a month, for 3 months, is that really?
But I'm saying that we what's the English word? We almost glorify
Okay.
being busy and
Alive.
stressed.
Mm.
You know, we're almost like, even that, I'm so stressed, I'm so busy. Because also we say it to seem like I'm doing something. Do you know what I
It's
mean?
like we're living a life.
It's like where you're busy doing important things. I think what I want to understand, what does it do to you over time? I just want to understand when you say over time it's bad. What does it do to a person? Stress over time, what does it do? Other than give you 18. Like what? You know?
Obviously, it will affect how you feel mood-wise. You might start feeling quite irritable, or you might start feeling quite depressed and sad, or you might start really not wanting to be around people. So you become unpleasant for other people who know you. Because the people who are around you most of the time, which is family and colleagues and your friends, are the ones who are going to feel the brunt of how you are. So besides really affecting your emotion, then it might affect how you think about things. The more negative you think about things, it just builds up. It becomes a cycle. You feel quite down, and you see the world gloomy. So it kind of changes how you look at things.
Your outlook.
An outlook. Then maybe perhaps if you come to behavior, you really might not be going out anymore. You might be really avoiding other people. You might really just perhaps even at work arriving late and not really being productive. So it like affects you personally, emotionally, behaviorally, even the way you think about things.
Yes.
Then it translates.
So it causes other psychological problems.
I actually read that people with mental health, I don't know if I said this.
Yeah.
I don't know if I said this earlier,
Yeah.
but I heard that actually people with mental problems, I read, that they die prematurely 2 decades early because due to preventable physical conditions.
So like stress over time causing other physical things like your
Preventable. For
hypertension
me, I think it was
and
a
whatever.
preventable thing.
Yeah, and those things are
preventable.
preventable through, I don't know, the next thing, lights out.
2 decades early.
That is 20 years.
Yeah.
Proper.
Very young.
And then people die young. You're like, what happened?
I can believe that. I'm not
Yeah.
a specialist or anything like that. But when you go through stress, think about it. Your sleeping pattern gets affected. Your capacity to retain information gets affected. Blood pressure gets affected.
Your attention.
And you mentioned that other people eat less, other people eat more. I'm on the second part.
Yeah. I do not eat my appetite.
Which I can believe.
I'm sure
can lead
so many people
to
are
other health
issues.
So I think even when you think about it logically, it does make sense that it can lead to more things. And unfortunately, the more you go down that rabbit hole, it becomes even more difficult to come out of it. Which is why I think awareness is only the first step. But I think we need to move beyond awareness, but also encourage people to act on it. For instance, to your point, in the workplace where people work until 10 because they're looking for a promotion. Because if you're busy, you're stressed, you leave at 10 every day. Even if you were to encourage people to take leave, sometimes they don't because they think it's going to work negatively.
It's going to be detriment.
So I think people need to get to that stage whereby they know they need to act for their own mental well-being.
That's the new buzzword, self-care. And people think it's just lighting candles.
I was going to say,
and putting cucumber on your eye, saying taking a bath and saying self-care. I'm just thinking because there's a lot to it. And you're saying that it's about self-awareness, but then after you're aware, you need to take care of yourself.
It's a change in perception because from what you were saying is that you get so bogged down in negativity, right? And it just becomes a cyclical thing. To be able to get yourself out of that hole because you're the only person who can.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
And other people are avoiding you. I mean,
we're either avoiding you or we're just like, when you're fine, I'll come back.
Exactly. And that's why people say that. They're like, no.
Because also, I mean, if I think about it, it really goes back to what you had said earlier. You said that if the other person feels inferior and they look at me funny, I mean, if I feel inferior and the next person looks at me funny, already I'm just like, excuse me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But now if I feel like that, everyone around me is going to look at me like I'm inferior.
Yes.
That's how I'm gonna feel.
Yes.
For me to get that out of my mind is a me thing. You guys are not gonna stop looking at me the same way you
Because we don't know.
We don't know.
Right.
And I think that's important to note when people, especially the people who have mental health problems, right? When you finally realize, like, my family, my friends, why didn't you do anything? We don't know. And even if we do know and there's an intervention, I can't help you out of that ditch.
Yeah.
Because it's your thinking that needs to swap, it needs to change. And so for me, and I'm wondering, because I'm trying to find the lowest common denominator of where do we start fixing the problem. And stress, obviously, management is one of them. I read that children can have mental health issues. I didn't problems.
Environment.
I didn't know.
No, environment. I think you spoke to environment.
Yes, children would have. If you're thinking of, besides the environment at home, generally the environment of life, the school environment, right? The kids are mean. Very mean. But sometimes you find the meanness as well. It's not like they have an intention.
No.
It's just that they're acting on
They're
something.
acting. Oh, yeah. To us as adults,
Yes.
not because it's me.
Yeah.
To them, they're kids being kids.
Yeah, they're just kids being kids. And so if you then spend time with the kids you have in your family or around you, to actually just connect with them and find out. And they will tell you. What I like these days is that children know their feelings better than adults.
Yes.
That's so true.
Yes.
When I
Because
say,
we are allowing them.
how are you? You say, I'm fine. But your face, everything of you say it's not fine. Absolutely. What do children say? No, I had a bad day.
Yes. No, they won't.
They're very in tune.
Absolutely.
Yes, with the feelings and all. And so I think it really comes down to that as perhaps as adults, if we are aware, and sometimes it's a whole issue of we might not have the words to it, but then if you're having awarenesses, if you're having education, just general education, then I might identify in an audience that, oh, that sounds more like me. I didn't know I had that. So it doesn't even have to start with, so go for this help.
Yeah.
But just giving education, just giving information, then I can recognize that, I think.
Sorry, I like what you said. I think the difference between us and kids have no shame. They don't.
Yeah.
So we get
Say
ashamed
like
to
it
say
is.
I'm not fine.
Yeah.
Said no, I had a bad day. So and so did this, pulled my hair, and even when it comes, you are mean to me. Yeah, they say. Whereas we have been conditioned to have it together. You know, I'm fine. Yes.
Take
Give
it
us
in.
love, take it in.
Be
Don't
strong.
be strong, but don't let people know your business. Because there's also that. I think the shame element to say, I'm not fine. I'm feeling I'm feeling gloomy.
I think to your
I'm
point,
feeling
it's
quite
asking for help.
You know?
Kids are not afraid to ask for help.
They're like, no.
We
And when
on
are
the
you gonna
other
buy me
side-
chocolates while we are at it? They ask for what they want, right?
They're very clear.
Very clear. Because they're not embarrassed. There's no
No.
sense of being ashamed. They're like, no, mom, I need ice cream. You know?
Or
whatever.
like I think for me, one of the things that I found, you learn all of your life
Yeah.
to be time. And so even the reparenting myself to be able to reparent my kids has been so hectic. Because I remember telling them, oh, sharing is caring, you must share. If someone comes and please share, which I
Yes.
still maintain, right? But then there's the whole thing of Ndanako is playing with your toy, and then another child comes and wants to play. Your immediate response is shame.
Yes.
And the child is like, but
I don't know how to share at this point.
I'm playing right now. At this point, I'm
Yes.
playing with my toy.
Let
And then
them
we
yeah.
make them feel bad about the fact
They
that
don't want to
they don't want to share. And what?
Because
And those are some of the things that we end up growing, feeling like I can't show how I feel
Yeah.
to the world. I can't say what
And you
I
start thinking,
think.
oh, this child is selfish, spoiled. Share, you start projecting. And
You're
yet,
projecting because it's me.
it's me.
You are looking
you're a
at me.
reflection of me now. You are scared.
But
And the
now
child
that-
is just a child.
We were once kids as well.
Yeah, we forget.
Where did it shift?
No, so I
You
was
get what I'm saying? Because I feel like there's a certain point clearly where we've been conditioned now to act this way. Because when we were kids,
we
we were
understood.
exactly like the kids.
Instead of
So
waiting and saying so and
It's
so,
shift
wait
as you
your
are
turn.
kids. So as you're a child and your
Your
mother
mother
is forcing
screams.
you to share your things you don't want to share, you're conditioning that child. Do you know what
I
I
think
mean?
what you're really saying is that we forget that we once, instead of giving that, thinking the same way like at 5 or at 4, I also didn't want to share.
Yeah.
So how did it feel like when mom said share? Instead of
Because
saying,
mom raised me, and then mom said what I was doing was wrong.
but
Now
you see
the
what
right
you're
one
saying
is
about
this one.
environment, and now the
It is
voice that she's
environment.
using is their mama's voice. And
So-
I'm owning up to it, and I think it's so, when you said that reflection, that exercise where you're assessing, where did the things come from? And I mean, you know, not to blame the parents, because I always say our parents knew what
They knew what they
they did the best they could
Yes.
under whatever circumstances. But you mentioned reparenting, and I think for me it speaks to also assessing now whose voice is it? You know,
And that's
because you have to say
reparenting.
when it's a reparenting, when you stop and like, but let's do that. So you can say,
It's like
hey
a
friend,
one.
do you want another toy? While my child plays with this toy, you know, instead of saying to this child, Nana, so and so is still busy with her toy. Do you want something else? She's got A, B, C, and D. And Nana, do you mind if she chooses one of these for me?
It's the
You know,
communication.
it's the communication, but also to check yourself. Because,
Yes.
like, yeah, because you find yourself sometimes when you want to say, like, oh, something like
No,
my mother.
you do.
You know,
I
it is
read-
not you.
I read somewhere that a child is their consciousness to be an adult is between 0 to 7.
Yeah.
At 7 years old, we are done programming with children.
I've heard of
After that, it's flying from what we program. So for a child and adult, so I think it's very important. The mental health thing becomes very important because sometimes you don't know where you got it from.
Exactly.
And so it's that stepping back and saying, woo! But for me, I still feel like the people who are in the space, you guys who know the information, or maybe because I don't know a lot of people around me who have a lot of mental issues.
Who have disclosing them.
Who are disclosing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Who are disclosing.
Yeah, you can't say
Maybe that's the
yeah.
problem,
Yeah.
right?
But
Still shy.
She's really, really modest about it.
Oh, girl, you don't know.
Okay. Let's close it off. I think we're running out of time. We should have had 2 hours of this conversation. It's very important. Last words, parting shots.
I would say, I think Patricia, thank you for the conversation. I enjoyed it. And I would say, shame is such a wasted feeling. I think I got that from my 19-year-old daughter. It's such a wasted because it hinders you from seeking help. It hinders you from being real, and also it hinders you from connecting meaningfully with people.
Wow.
Because there are barriers. You're so ashamed of. Sometimes we're just ashamed of being human. You know, we've not evolved in the many years that, I mean, that's one species that has really not evolved. And yet the world around us is different from the caveman days, right? And yet we still, our brain at least, how it functions and what we can tolerate. So thank you so much.
I'm gonna catch you because we're the same age. Parting shots.
So I'm just gonna say that it's about time that mental health stops being a stigma.
Yeah.
We stop discriminating. And also from an individual perspective as well, we need to accept when we need help and raise our hands. It's just like any physical, problem. It's just that you can't see it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for this conversation. I hear the messages that we, in the subject, we should be more accessible. And I really think self-awareness, which is something that we preached quite a lot, and accepting when you have a problem. It starts with small things. Don't wait until it's too big that you can't manage anymore, that you feel shameful about. So little things that recognize them and seek help and talk about it. Why is it so easy to talk about the fact that I had a running tummy yesterday?
Yeah, but you can't talk about I'm stressed and it's going crazy.
Yes. Let's make it normal.
Let's make it normal, let's normalize it. But yes, thank you. So for me, parting shots is I think this was a beautiful conversation. Thank you so much, ladies. And I feel like this is a testament of why this conversation started, right? Because yes, we're a people management company, and that's when we realized that there's a lot surrounding people. And these are the issues we need to discuss as the platform to discuss everything people and everything. How do we help? Where do we find the help?
Yeah.
If it's a work thing, a personal thing, and all those things. So this has been great. And continue listening to many of our conversations that are coming up where we are educating and conversing to find solutions with everybody. Thank you. See you in the next conversation.
Bye.
This was nice.
Oh, I thought you were gonna